Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Finance and General Purposes meeting on Thursday, the 15th of December. I'm going to open the meeting at 7:01 with a tin thing because we haven't got the gavel. There we go. Okay, so first item on the agenda is to elect a chairman and vice chairman after which Councillor Sweatman has stepped down. As I'm the existing vice chair, I shall take over this part. So I will need somebody to nominate me, if at all possible, at the moment, please. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Helen. As we have a second to that, is there anybody else that would like to nominate themselves or anybody else? Okay. Okay. Can we have a vote on that, please?
I think that's carried. Congratulations, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so I now need to ask for a vice chair, and I would like to nominate Councillor Farron, please. Can I have a second for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Belsey. Unless anybody else wants to put their hand up for it. Okay, can we have a vote on that, please?
That's carried.
Okay.
You can have a vote. Could help myself.
Can I just confirm that that's for this meeting?
Just for this meeting, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, over to...
No. That wasn't for this
that
meeting.
Was
you've confirmed, you've just voted and confirmed Mrs. Farron for the vice chair role for this committee, you've also put yourself in as the chair. You've elected as the chairman for this committee, so that will now last through till the end of this administrative year, which is at the end of April, beginning of May. So we've got the committee for the small committee in January, and then the committee in March, which will be chaired and vice chaired unless there is another vote to change the chair and vice chair.
I hadn't realised that, but I'm happy with it. I hadn't realised when I was voting that was what we were doing, and so I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah. The cycle.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Public questions, Tom? Have nobody here, so we have anybody online or any email?
No, we've got nothing.
Okay, let's move on swiftly then. Apologies for absence. We have Councillor Matthews, who's unwell, and Councillor Sweatman. I would like to...
We've also had the Deputy Mayor and the Mayor. The Mayor is out doing mayoral duties, and the Deputy Mayor is at work.
Okay, I'd like to note these, please.
Noted.
Thank you. Is that everybody okay with that? Okay. To receive the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th. I propose these for accuracy. May I have a second?
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the minutes? Anything at all? Okay, can I move to the vote, please? Thank you. Well, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4, to receive any declarations of interest. If anyone knows that affects the agenda, so Councillor Farron and Councillor Osborne with what? Checking in at all?
You just need to declare for Chequermead. It's obviously on your original declaration.
It's on my original declaration, but I'd just like to bring it to everyone's attention that with the Chequermead on the agenda tonight, that I'm a trustee at Chequermead.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item 5. The chairman's announcements. Not a lot to report at the moment. Obviously, we've had public services and A&T, so a lot has been brought up in those. St Barnabas is still progressing, but slowly. We waiting on solicitors' paperwork and so on and so forth. So
just a little update on that one for you, Chair. That's coming today.
Since printing.
Yeah, little one to say. We've spoken to WSALC and asked them to again query why we've not heard from the Public Works Loan Board, and we have been promised a contact tomorrow. So that's as much as we know.
Do not read your phones. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Okay, on to item 6. We see a list of approved payments for September, October, and November. Anybody have any questions on these? I should be pointing towards. Anybody any questions on those? Okay. If that's the case, I would like to propose those. Could I have a second, please?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. Could I have a show of hands? Okay, item 7, Town Council Finances, a position statement. There was a very good report in the agenda sent out. Does anybody have any questions based on that for Dan?
No.
Okay.
Not that report.
These are for noting.
Noted.
Noted.
Thank you. Performance indicators. There was another report in there based on the KPIs. So, any questions based on that?
Chairman, I think a little update. I think at the Public Services Committee, it was asked whether or not why Roger was in hospital at the moment, and I gave a little update on that. He's obviously the main. No, we're okay. He's the main absentee with regards to why we've got a large sickness rate on there for the moment. He's had a little bit of a setback and has been back in hospital, but we are told that he is progressing and all is well.
Could you pass on
Of course.
our best wishes to him, please? So hopefully he'll be back up and running for Christmas. Okay, internal audit. Oh, sorry, item 7, which is for noting.
Noted.
Thank you. Internal audit, item 9. And once again, that was in the papers. So does anybody have any questions for Dan? Looks like your reports to the trick.
No, that's the plan.
Yeah.
Okay. What a piece of software that churns that out. Did you do such detail?
These are for noting as well.
Noted.
Fantastic. Right. On to item 10, recommendations for standing committees. Any recommendations from the other standing committees for finance application?
You've just got your recommendations from amusements and tourism.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you might want the chair of A&T to.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. We recommended that we continue with our concessions and the complementary concessions. And the groups have been named as existing in the report. The East Grinstead Society no longer needed the room for their planning committee. We also recommended to this committee that the Town Council remained a member of Ashplatts Woods East Court SANG steering group, and that the room could be made available up to twice a year for their meetings. We'll be part of that, and it seems sensible to be on site for those. Also, fees and charges for room hire for 24-25 financial year, so not next year, for the year after, and proposed as shown in Appendix B to approve by the Finance and General Purposes Committee to increase the charges to the Sackville Lace Makers on a Saturday on a phased basis over 3 years, to increase the charge to then be in line with the other hirers on a Saturday. We felt this was important. We understood that they are a long-standing hirers, but it can affect weddings and other bookings. So to bring it in phased line, we did think that this, if we did it over 3 years, if they were then struggling for members, I don't think it could come back to committee at future. So we did a staggered increase in line. So that's the recommendations I'd like to make towards this committee from the Amenities and Tourism meeting last week.
So Chairman, you have got 4 recommendations there, and I suggest that you take them individually so that you have just a clear decision on all of them. So the first one is for continued concessions for the complementary use of council facilities for the groups which remained in the Amenities and Tourism report of the 8th of December, noting that the incentive society no longer needed by. I think that's been proposed by.
It was proposed, yes. Sorry, I just went through all 4 in one go. So.
I'll second. that all right? Can we do that, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on that? Show of hands. You.
Carried. Your second one, Chair, is that while the Town Council remained a member of the Ashpatswood Wood East Court Sang steering group, that a room would be made available up to twice a year for the steering group meeting. Again, that has been proposed by the Chair of A&T.
I'll second that. Any questions? Vote on that then, please. Show of hands. Thank you.
That's carried. Your next one is the proposals as shown in Appendix B of the Amenities and Tourism Committee of the 8th of December, and again they have been circulated for you, be approved to take effect from April 2024. So again, that's been proposed by the Chair of A&T.
Second that. Any questions? Okay, show of hands, please.
That's carried. And your final one is to increase the charges to the Sackville lace makers on Saturdays in a phased basis over 3 years to increase the charge to then meet the same higher rate as other hirers on Saturdays, and this phased increase will start from April 2024.
I will second that.
The lace makers on Saturday, just them as an individual.
That's a phase increase.
Yeah, just to give the background on that one, the Sackville lace makers used to meet in the parish halls many years ago, and when they moved to when the parish halls was closed down, the groups that were there were moved into the East Court building, but they stayed on the same rates they had at the parish halls. It was very much part of the movement over. They're the only group left, and they are in a group who have a significantly reduced rate in comparison to the others. So that was the conversation, and why the committee decided that it was perhaps now time to put that into a better position with regards to being fairer to all hirers.
Is the, may I ask a supplementary question? Is the rental, is it seasonal or is it just per annum? Are rentals income, is it seasonal or is it one for the whole year?
The room rates are the same all year round, but they are different depending on what day and time of the day. It's more complicated, but we don't have it seasonally charged. No.
Thank you.
Were they promised this rate forevermore? The current rate?
Okay. I won't promise anything. It's just when they moved over.
Further questions? Okay. Can we go to the vote, please?
That's carried. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you for holding. Delegated decisions. So this is for noting, these Finsbury Town Council offices will be open on the 29th and 30th of December. So that was a delegated decision. Very not nice for people in, and I think it's good for the community. So I think that's a great decision, and that's just for noting.
Noted.
Thank you very much. Okay, youth sports grants. We are, as a committee, have been asked to consider the applications and allocate the budget budgeted grants, consider any underspend with regards to the cost of living crisis. I have a proposal. This is the proposal sheet here in front of us. There was an charity we believe called Believe in Potential. They're not at this time nominated for award, as the applications included personal, not business contacts. We are unable to get any response to telephone or email inquiries as to what has already been done in the town and the involvement of the schools. On this basis, it's not recommended that the group have been unable to demonstrate what grant be used for. So,
could you advise what the movement is? Is it the same? Is it an increase? I've just got the figures that they are this year. I just wondered, was it an increase?
I will have to ask for help with that because I don't have that information.
The youth sports grant is a £3,000 budget that we have, and so there's no change in regards to the overall budget, and what you should have in the original report is the table which showed what was awarded last year. Thank you very much. So what was awarded last year?
I've just got one that's tabled here.
Yeah. But if you want to have a look at this,
do you want me to do the
yeah,
two?
we'll do
I can go between the
that
two.
was what was awarded last year, and some of them are there and some of them are not.
Okay, thank you.
You need to propose these things.
Sorry?
One, do we need to propose it together?
No, do it all together at the end, once you've chatted about it, you might have to change some things.
Okay, no problem. So, Asheswood Junior Football Club, last year 500, this year 300.
Is that correct? Sorry.
Right.
Is there Believe on there?
They are in there, yeah.
They didn't have a grant last year. So.
No, but in the report, it's got the information,
okay.
in the information below.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that right, Julie?
Yes, that's correct. I'm just trying to go back. Here we go. No, these aren't last year's. These are the applicants. So what's in the report is what they had last year. Sorry, what's in the report is what they applied for. But in the wording in the report, it tells you what they received last year, because I put all of that in. So yeah, if you want to take them, I think you'll need to start down and go down, and that tells you what they did and what they had last year. It was all there.
Okay, so Asheswood Football Club asked for 5. We've suggested 3, and last year they had 500.
We have 500.
500 last year.
Yes, they did.
Yes, yeah.
We had a lot less applicants last year. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, there's a few more here, isn't there? Are we happy with that? Can we discuss it?
I'd like to hear what the others provided.
Yeah, absolutely no problem at all. So Felbridge and Sunnyside Cricket Club asked for 5. We've suggested 3.
They had 2019, they had 500, Chair.
Thank you. Let's check. Yeah, so 500 last time. Okay, East Grinstead Swimming Club. East Grinstead Swimming Club asked for 1,200. We have allowed 500. And last
2020, they had 500, Chair.
Thank you very much. Forget what number 4 on here. Okay, Crawley Down Cricket Club asked for 300. We've suggested 250.
They didn't have anything. There was nothing in the report for the last application. They didn't apply last time around.
No problem at all. Thank you for that. E.G. Meads requested 5. We've suggested 250. Yeah.
Meads, it doesn't say they were awarded anything. They said they made applications.
So nothing.
East Grinstead Meads Football Club had £500 in 2021.
Okay, so moving on to ED target shooting. They asked 500. We've suggested 250.
No, the first one.
First one application for that one. East Grinstead Town Football Club asked for 500. We've suggested 300.
I didn't apply last year.
Nothing last year. Sackville School, 2,500 they've requested. We've suggested 700. And nothing last year.
Can I ask what Sackville School, why would we be giving them a donation?
They're looking for
so
hockey equipment.
Sackville School have applied for the grant to provide an opportunity for years 7 and 8 to play hockey at East Grinstead Hockey Club. The school are asked for 2,500 towards the cost of the 3,500. The grant will be used to purchase hockey sticks, balls, goalkeeping equipment, along with mouth guards and shin pads to some students who cannot afford them. 9% of the students at Sackville live in East Grinstead Parish, and there is a new application. School.
that normal that we would support schools with equipment?
What used to happen is that, I might have to ask Councillor to help me out here because I can't remember the exact title, but there used to be an officer attached to the school, both schools, who would, whose job was to active children, sports, and they used to put an application in, and it was all usually across the two schools. Sometimes it was just Imberhorn, sometimes just Sackville, sometimes they worked together, and they would be applying for the money, and it would come in under Sports Active,
Mid Sussex Sports Active.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something like that. And that was how they used to apply for it, and we were very happy to support them. Those roles no longer exist, so the school have made an application directly for it, so it's exactly the same process as what was being used before. If you determine that the schools are not eligible and you don't think that we should be awarding to them, that is the decision for this committee to make. If you are happy to make an award on that this year on the basis that it's exactly the same as what happened before, it's just through a different route, then I think that's absolutely fine. It's up to
Have they applied to Mid Sussex? Is that possible? Or
you don't know that.
We'll get sports premium, so they get quite a hefty chunk, which is designed for such purposes.
It's just that some of these are absolute voluntary groups that have no other access to such. You know, I know that the football club, I mean, they run an awful lot of clubs and national schools and things, and they are very much dependent only on
secondary. All state schools should be writing a document to be published by the end of December 2022 that says how they spend their sports premium, which covers things like this.
The only thing I would say to you is that our current criteria does say that it has to be for a new youth initiative.
Yeah.
So whatever they're doing, it needs to be something new they're bringing forward, not simply to continue funding or simply to get in additional funds. It has got to be towards a new initiative if they're making an application.
Just to recap, it says that school apply for grants to provide an opportunity for the 7 and 8. It doesn't necessarily state it's a new one. So reading to that or no.
But there's nothing in the current criteria that prevents the school from
So
did we make a donation to the schools last year?
No,
this is the first time.
It's the first time they've applied.
So we've got a first time for the target shooting, and we've got a first time for the Sackville school.
Yep. Councillor Olivia.
Yes, 2 questions. The first question being, why have we seen an increased number of applications for grants this year?
I think, to be fair, Councillor, it's because it's more a case of last year and the year before we had reduced grant applications because with coming out of the COVID pandemic, a lot of the groups weren't meeting for quite some time. So I think, to be very fair, we've gone back to similar numbers, if not, we're still a bit lower than we have had in the past. We've had bigger application pools in the past. But this time, 2 or 3 of them have got quite large bids, whereas we do say that we don't normally spend more than grant more than £500. But yeah.
Is that everything? Thank you.
I think a lot of, I mean, all of these, if you read through why they're applying for them, they do fit the criteria. And actually for these sports clubs to continue and to grow, and every year as children grow and the parents who are coaches and trained move on with their children, you need to bring in, and a lot of these are to ensure that new people are they're keeping up with all child protection, they're keeping up with the qualifications and all the things that are so costly to keep these clubs going. I'm happy to support the clubs that have all applied. It's important that we maintain those facilities for children and young adults.
Your chairman.
Fair enough. Okay, Councillor Martin.
Sorry. Is there any possibility of movement on? I think, you know, all these grants are really important. I think the youth, the sports is something we really got to encourage. Is there any possibility of the £3,000 being increased in any way, shape or form, or is that rigidly set?
It's set in the budget. councillor. So it's something I think you need to bear in mind for next year's budget if you wish. It's what you've set this year.
You know, I think for the youth, for our youth, it's really important that we keep these groups and clubs going. I mean, a lot of children, it would be the only way they could play cricket, or the swimming club, I think, is essential. I mean, everyone I look at them, I think they're so worthwhile. I would hate to think that cutting from 5 to 300 or something, I'd like to know that our cutting is not jeopardising the actual financial position of the clubs, because I think it's hugely important that sports is encouraged and we support them throughout East Grinstead. That's my concern, that cutting some of them, and especially when we get over £1,000 extra given to 2 new clubs, meaning that a third of the budget has come off of the ones that are existing. So I have concern, that's all.
That's something we could discuss about the budget for next year.
Can I just say something on that? It's very seldom that we actually meet the expectations of the applicants that come in. I mean, thinking back over a number of years, we always take into account where else they're applying for money, and a lot of them don't. They just come to us. What number of the organisations have got what the percentages of their membership, which is East Grinstead, and quite a few of these have only got 40–50% of their membership being drawn from our parish. So it would be nice to see actually that they were looking to perhaps go to other parishes and other areas as well to ask for some support. We have they're not the same groups year on year that come back and ask. We do get a turnover, and over the years we've had an awful lot more. And also, just one final point I say to you is that probably about 4 years ago, might be 5 now, this was a budget of 4,000, which we reduced to 3,000 due to the drop-off in the applications. And we had been going to the Sports Council and other places and saying, these grants are available, please come apply for them. And we're picking up, which I think is really good. And I think you're absolutely right to suggest that needs to be looked at with budget going forward. But I don't think this is somewhere that we've come to without quite a lot of history, if you like, with regards to how it's got there.
Great news.
I'm
just concerned that I want to see this sports.
Of course.
I know one of these groups, I actually suggested another route of funding, which they did explore and get. And last time I saw them, they were really grateful, because there are other avenues. I realise that. It's just I'm just nervous that I so want to maintain the sports facilities for our youth.
It's very important.
Thank you.
Councillor Whitaker, please. I was actually going to ask for your comments, but I know you'd be in it.
Thank you. I'm not a member of your committee, but thank you for allowing me to speak. I would echo the comments of Councillor Belsey and Councillor Farron wholeheartedly. Just to give some context, obviously this town council effectively sponsors what is known as the Sports Council within the town, which was founded by this town council back in 2008. They meet quarterly. The next meeting is on the 12th of January, which is chaired by Bob Shea, who's independent, obviously, from the council. They do tremendous work. They link with all of our primary schools, our 14 primary schools, and our 2 main secondary schools, plus lots of other schools outside. And I know with the Sackville grant, I know obviously the new head teacher in there, Jo, I can't remember her surname, but she's got a very distinguished sporting pedigree, so I'm sure she's very ambitious to raise, additional funds, which she's doing, and I wholeheartedly support it. But again, just by way of example, the swimming club, for instance, hire the King Centre on a regular basis for their large membership, and that brings income to the district council of circa £60,000 a year from their hire fees. So not insignificant payback for a lot of these sports clubs that put back into our community. These are youth sports grants, and Councillor Farron and Councillor Belsey have just hit the nail on the head. So thank you for your continuing support.
No problem. Thank you for your input. Councillor Evans.
Which of these organisations charge fees for membership?
I would,
imagine all of them.
having been to most or played for some or swam at others, most do.
Except the school.
Yeah,
obviously.
School. But then again, it's that fine balance, isn't it, between income and outgoings. And as Councillor Verus says, we don't want to be the one that sort of takes the straw that breaks the camel's back. So it is vitally important that we give the youth of East Grinstead the opportunities to use, frankly, some fantastic facilities that we've got around the town. And without those facilities, then we lose revenue and income, and the facilities good for us on site. So I'm all for it.
Could I just to back up on that really? I used to be part of the Beads in the previous life, and other football clubs I've been part of. They're non-money making. They have to charge to survive because they have the higher fees and they have to pay for the referees even at child level. They have to pay for kits and everything and registration with the FA and everything. They're very expensive to run, so they do all charge. But they're non-profit making, and all their coaches, etc., are all volunteers, and they give a massive amount of time. These things are just to stop them actually going into deficit, these clubs, to allow them to continue. And from experience, I can quite happily say that as a fact.
In answer to your question, the straight answer is yes, they will charge. But school. Okay, so I would like to vote on this en bloc rather than individually, unless anybody would like to adjust any of the amounts in any of the columns.
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. Yes, we can't start going up.
We can't add more.
I should bear it in mind when we come to the budget meeting next time.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, we can do that. So thank you very much for seconding that. Can I have a show of hands in support, please? Thank you very much. Okay.
I'm very glad that Believe in Potential came off. I was a bit suspect about that. Potential.
We will be inviting them all to our January council meeting on the 9th of January to ask them to come along and to collect their checks and tell us a bit more about them.
There's Adam. Is he using that? Okay. Okay. Moving on to item 13, council allowances. We have two to discuss. To approve the allowance scheme payable 23-24. It's changed a little bit recently. It's a bit different as in the past, they used percentage awarded to the staff, and we've had some higher and we've had some lower, which means the average has worked out 6.5. However, it's proposed that we align the councillors increase with the lowest amount awarded at 2.5%.
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Discussion.
Would like to discuss it? Councillor
I think it's important to mention, firstly, we don't know how productive the next set of councils are going to be. For all we know, they could be absolutely terrible, not one. They
could be absolutely brilliant.
Well, they could be absolutely brilliant. Secondly, it should be noted, this will cost taxpayers £558. It will make taxpayers £558 poorer. And thirdly, I'd like to note 506 people signed a petition to abolish tax allowances, which I think is a good indication of what they think of an increase. And given it's 506 people that have signed a petition to abolish them, and so often this committee talks about doing what the public wants, it stands to reason, in my mind at least, given that very clear indication, an indication that hasn't been matched by anybody else with a petition across these 4 years, that they would not want the allowances to go up by 2.6%. And for that reason, or for those sets of reasons, I won't be voting in favour of this proposal.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry, I think I've been hard of hearing. What was it was the staff increase we're talking about.
It's in line with the staffing.
It's the allowance for
councillors' allowance. Councillors' allowance.
Using the lowest percentage for the staff.
The way we've always done it, or the way we've done it since they stopped having the independent panel at the district for the parishes, is to align it to the same cost of living rise that the staff get. This year, however, the staff, it was on a sweeping scale, and so it was trying to decide what type of percentage to apply to the councillor's allowance. So at the moment, the recommendation is at the lowest end of the scale, which is 2.5%. That's now up for you to discuss.
I personally would prefer not to see an increase in the councillor's allowance. I think difficult conditions out there. I think people are struggling with electricity and everything else. I personally, it's a very low increase. I accept that. It wouldn't make much difference, but I just think as a principle, we shouldn't be taking an increase in our allowance when the majority of people are really struggling.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Chair, I'm happy personally not to take an allowance increase, but obviously we sit on this committee for everybody. So I'm a little bit sitting in no man's land on this one.
That's not to vote then.
We've heard it proposed, we haven't seconded. Discussed. It's now time for vote. Sorry, Councillor, I didn't see. So.
Again, I'm not a member of your.
I'm just thinking of it might need an opinion, seeing as it's.
My personal view is to agree with Councillor Dawson.
Good. Okay, let's move to the vote.
Those in favour is what we need to say.
Those in favour?
Those against?
Those against?
The motion is defeated. We need a new proposal.
So, new proposal is to keep it as it is for the same as this current year, going forward for next year. May I have a...
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Okay. Yeah. As you all put your hand up, let's go to the vote for that then.
That's carried. So is that in respect of the council's allowance and the town mayor's allowance?
That was just.
I think asking
just the council's allowance.
Okay, that's just the council allowance. Sorry for me. So just one thing. So would you like to also do that for the mayor's money as well, mayor's allowance, or should we just say that I would like to propose we keep it the same for the mayor this year as for next year as well. So I'd like to propose that. Can I have a second? Councillor Ramos, thank you very much. All vote on that then, please. So that's for the mayor's allowance to stay the same as it is this year.
I think that's carried. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. There is a motion from Councillor Ramos regarding his 22-23 allowance. Over to you, Councillor Ramos.
Excellent. This will not cost the council anything. It will not result in any cut in any budget. It will simply allow for each taxpayer next year to have a one-off 1p tax cut. It's not going to affect any budget in any way, apart from my council's allowance, which I've not taken this year, will be put in place of another budget, or rather it will top it up. So I would commend this motion to the House. It doesn't cost anything. It's going to result in a tax reduction. However small, relative to the counterfactual. I can't see how anybody possibly object to it.
Could you propose?
Could you?
And I'm happy to propose that.
I'm happy to second. Any comments? No?
Sorry, could you just tell me the
recommendation? I think we'd be clear.
Yeah, your proposal's not very clear. Sorry.
Councillor Amos's allowance for 22-23, he will not take, and the money will go back.
Would you like me to read the proposal? Okay, so the proposal is there's two elements here again, so you will need to have two votes, okay? So to transfer the amount that Councillor Amos was entitled to claim as a counter allowance, which was £1,175.19, from the 22-23 budget to a ring-fenced reserve. So effectively, Councillor Amos's element of the counter allowance this year will be reserved and put in an earmarked reserve. That newly created ring-fenced reserve be allocated, and he wishes it to be spent as town events for 23-24, which means that the town events budget in the budget will be reduced to £824.81. However, adding Councillor Amos's earmark fund to it means that you can still spend exactly the same amount of money as what the budget would have been. I hope that's clear.
Yes, thank you.
So you've got two elements, Chair. The first one is to create a ring-fence reserve, and the reason we have to do this is because it's 2 different years of budgeting.
So what's that one you
So that's right. So you need to create an earmark reserve for this year, and then you need to say that you're going to use it in that way in the budget.
Okay, Councillor Amos, do you want to propose that?
I'm happy to propose the first element of
I'm
that.
happy to second that first element. Any comments or questions?
Thank you, Councillor Amos.
Yes.
And that will go to, what will it go to?
At the moment, that's simply going to go to an earmarked reserve. Your second proposal will be determined where it then
Need
goes.
to know first.
Okay, so no comments, so we'd like to propose on that. Okay, and the second proposal is for it to go.
I abstained, did you know that?
It's fine.
Yes.
And the second proposal is for it to go towards the
Town events.
Town event.
I believe that was where you wanted it to go. Yes,
Yeah,
the town events budget.
So would you like
And I would like to propose that, please.
I'm happy to second. Any comments? Okay, can we move to the vote, please?
We have 3. That's carried.
You can use it for East Court Live, your favourite thing.
Oh, it's an absolute joy for it to be spent at the East Court Live.
Councillor Amos, I'd like to thank you for that.
No worries.
Thank you very much.
Well, whatever it's spent on, I'm not really too concerned about.
Yeah, there'll be something else in the town.
Okay, moving on. Item 14, calendar of meetings 23-24. To consider and propose the calendar meetings for next year. Bank holidays, etc., have been avoided as far as possible. We try to avoid Mid Sussex and West Sussex meetings. But it's not always possible to do so, especially as they are not provided us with a list of proposed meeting dates. The dates of the council meetings are reserved for the council to approve, but the committee agree for the other meetings. I would like to propose those.
Happy to second those, Chair.
Fantastic. Any thoughts, questions? Okay. Let's move on to the vote, please. Fantastic.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Chequermead annual report. Unfortunately, the chairman of that committee is not here.
The vice chairman is.
But the vice chairman is.
Really not. Thank you very much. Frank.
Well, there is a full report.
There is a very full report.
A very detailed and full report. So we can hand over to you, Councillor Farron, or we can go straight to questions if anybody has any.
Happy to go to questions. Yes.
How is the, are we booked up for pantomime? I know it's your major.
The pantomime, the figures compared to last year we did pantomime, and then obviously it got cut early because of the COVID from the cast. So we've done our figures against 2019, and the figures were, and the sales, the tickets were higher and the sales value was higher as well. So even before we got to the end of the season, before it even started to run, we were running at a better sales rate than before. So we're looking at a profit. The Chequermead does incredibly well on its pantomime, especially since we've taken them in-house. So the pantomime is a winner so far. So fingers crossed that everything stays.
I went there last year and it was very good. And I'm actually booked in for this year's pantomime.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that we went last year and it was so good, we're going to it.
Yeah, so everything's looking very, very promising.
Good.
And very positive. Yes.
Catherine.
I saw a grant in there for £93,525 on page 64. If that's helpful.
Yes, it is helpful. Thank you.
That's all right.
Well, I've only got to page 7. Well, it's not actually, because I've only got to page 26.
I was just wondering where that was from. Yeah,
Is it the grant from?
it's not town council grant, which I think is 74.
Is it this one, Charles?
Yes, that one. Where's that one from?
It's 93 in the grant section.
What year is this? So this will have been, oh, wish Frank was here. So we had grants coming in during the pandemic.
Okay.
So we applied for grants to the Arts Council through the pandemic, and the grants will have come in from those grants during that time.
And do you know what you spent that grant on?
Survival.
Okay.
Basically, I will find the information for you and get more detail.
No
but we had to get the grants so to keep on a skeleton staff to keep it functioning and running. We also got grants in for the outside. I know that, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I think the time when you're on board, so please do interject. We had grants to do outside furniture so that we could continue when we were allowed to open outside, to open the apron and do the catering, and very much the coffee shop and the catering enabled, because it's part of the it runs its own company, but it's part of the charity, that they were then able to support and keep the theatre alive by being able to using that element rather than actually being able to have people in for events in the theatre. So we got grants for that, and we had to staff that, and then obviously we still had to keep the general manager on and keep running it, and so the grants did come in.
Okay, thank you.
But I will check and come back with any more information on that and let you know if there's any other grants that I've missed off for that one.
Can I ask you
yes,
about the overall capacity of rentals? Is it static? Is it increasing?
It's not back to full capacity. We had to, at one point there was getting staff back in has been a challenge now, but that's not for this year, but moving forward, getting staff in has been a challenge. We're just getting to where we need to be and getting them trained up. And there was a fluctuation at the beginning of this year that was where we were having some in and out. So we made a decision not to have and cancel shows so that we could then concentrate on getting staff in and getting them trained and getting everything back to where it's going to be, in a chance of keep pulling them out. So we kept having to refund and do things like that. But we are moving back towards capacity with a nearly full programme booked in now from September onwards.
So and have you had to not take bookings because of your staff?
No, it was... we had to cancel bookings, and then people weren't coming in because if staff got COVID and there were other people got COVID, the shows were cancelled. So we had a little spate of having to cancel shows, but we've got back up and running on that now. So we are starting to get on an even keel with a full booking of shows coming forward. We've done some initiatives, we've got some grants for extra storytime books to get families in, and so there's a few other initiatives that's been added in to get people into the theatre, even if they're not necessarily coming in to spend in the theatre, they're spending in the coffee shop, which again supports the theatre. The profit from the coffee shop goes back into the theatre and the charitable trust.
So are you optimistic going forward?
Yes, yes. We're sitting a bit like this, but as soon as you get to the end of the production run of the pantomime, things start to even out again, and I'll be in a different position to tell you about the figures moving forward. But
yeah,
the auditors were happy with how we survived the pandemic, and this set of figures is still coming out of the end of the pandemic. And then moving forward, everything at the moment is optimistic.
Great, thank you.
Vice Chair, it might be helpful to remind you that you've also received grants from the bounce back.
We did the bounce back, yes.
So it likely might have been one of those. It might have been one of the business supports that came through.
Yes, we did. We did the Mid Sussex ones as well. We did all of those. We did the grants that we could support, and to furlough the staff that needed to be furloughed with Mid Sussex grants that we could take on to maintain the equilibrium throughout. So even if they were furloughed, they would then come back in and be able to get the theatre running up as quickly as possible, and using time when the theatre was closed to do maintenance and other jobs that needed to be done that could be done when we couldn't have people.
The last meeting, I think Councillor Austin said it was the technical staff who were having problems with. That's
all now recruited. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just stuck with marketing now and coffee shop staff.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, that report was for noting.
Noted.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank all the trustees and the staff at the checking room for all their hard work and for keeping assets which wanted going and opening through the very difficult times and hopefully easier times ahead. So. I
will pass that on our next meeting, which is January, following the positive run of Panto. Oh yes, it is.
I was going to say there's so many jokes. So
I thought I'd get in first.
I've been biting my tongue the whole way through. Okay, so.
Can you imagine the meetings we start off in sort of June, July with that statement of Panto?
Okay, moving on to item 16 to approve the Henry Smith Charity Trustee applications. There are some vacancies to be filled on this board. To consider the Christmas award. I think this is for noting, isn't it?
No, not at all.
Sorry,
if you want to throw this one over to Harry, I'm sure he'll be very happy to talk everyone through.
Over to you, Harry. please?
Yes, of course. Yeah, no, of course.
Three things to do.
Yeah, so we've got three different things to do, Chairman. So basically, the first, just a brief thing about the Sydney. Yeah, of course. The Sydney Bletchley Charity and Henry Smith Charity and John Smith Trust is completely separate to the Town Council. We do not fund it in any way. The only way that we help is currently by my staff time, which is then paid. They pay for it back. But they get money from the registered charity, which is the Henry Smith Charity. We get a grant from them, and it's my job, along with the trustees, to distribute that to elderly people who are in need of an additional money through a gift card for Christmas. It's used mostly for helping people who need a top up. Basically, Christmas is quite a hard time for a lot of people. It's for over 65s. And it's mainly now given on a means basis. It's tested with the electoral register, and the trustees go thoroughly through it. It's actually changed quite a bit recently. We've had a few trustees who are no longer with us, and so what we're doing with this agenda item is appointing the missing trustees, and also to re-elect the serving councillors on the board. Any questions, just give me a shout. Thank you, Chairman.
Would you like Harry to take you through the three resolutions?
I would indeed, yes, please.
Okay.
I'm going to ask for help.
The first one is to note.
Yeah, so the first one is to note the current board. So that's just for noting.
Could you just run through the names in case the papers?
Of course, yeah. No, so the current trustees are currently Mr. David Heasman, Mrs. Beverly Heasman, Mrs. Wendy Stacey, Mr. Paul Johnson, and Mrs. Gina Bainbridge. And the two councillors are currently Mr. D. Sweatman, Mrs. M. Belsey. Okay. And yeah, so that's for noting.
Noted.
Noted, thank you.
Noted. We also, just because it's part of the noting, we're going to reappoint Councillor Sweatman and Mrs. Belsey as council reps, and that will require a proposal and a second, Chairman.
I'd like to propose it.
And I'd like to second that, Chair.
Yes. Councillor Belsey, would you like to?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd be honoured to remain Mrs. Council.
Thank you.
Trustee.
So we've noted the trustees, you've
Vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to
vote.
vote. Sorry.
I'd like to vote that. Thank you.
And then this council I would like to recommend that this council approve two new trustees to the board to replace the missing members. They are Mrs. Linda Bryant and Mrs. Barbara Broadway. And yeah, please can I have a please?
I am happy to propose that.
Happy to second that, Chair.
Fantastic. Any comments? Move to the vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 17. A little bit more on this one. Yeah, there's a meeting one. Harry, I'm going to be coming to you on this one. Okay, so it's new tipper for the grounds maintenance team. We need to decide whether to purchase an electric or a diesel tipper for the grounds maintenance team. Harry, could I hand over to you?
Yes, of course. Yes.
On
So I believe it was the beginning of this year, the committee, through a delegated decision, purchased a 4x4 that is to replace our current pickup. So it's a direct replacement, pickup for pickup. The reason why it was delegated decision is it was such a good valued option that we were absolutely amazed by the price, and compared to other quotes that we had, it just blew it out of the water, but it was only available for a selected time. The reason why we went with that vehicle is because this committee had resolved a year ago to go for an electric pickup. Actually, sorry, it was in February 2022, so it received two quotes. The electric vehicles, the reason why I'm bringing this back to committee is that the quotes have gone up quite significantly since I last checked. The vehicle now, I contacted them and they re-quoted, and it has gone up effectively about £3,000 plus VAT. Also alongside this, electricity has gone up a significant amount, and that's kind of what I've put in the report, because I really just would like a steer from this committee on what they would like me to do. I'm more than happy to go ahead with the electric option, but I also would like sort of discussion around it, because I think it's really important to get exactly what you want on it. That's why I've put positive and negatives in the report. I'll just go over the finances, because I think that's important. So I received 6 quotes for electric vehicles, the average coming to 50,396, and the lowest coming in at 40,555. East Grinstead Town Council also received 5 quotes for diesel vehicles, the average cost coming to 38,073, and the lowest cost coming in at 32,995. Currently in the budget, because we've already allocated 21,000 in our 60 grand pot for the vehicles that we have accumulated over the years, that leaves us with a balance of 39,000. But if we decided to go for the electric option, we also have a 30,000 pound pot of green initiatives money that we could dip into. I'm not saying that we use a lot of that, because I think this council would prefer to go down the option of using that for other things. But I do think that if we needed to just top it up, it's important to say that this committee could afford to do so. I'm more than happy to take questions. I realise that this is a big ask. I realise that it is. I'm not recommending either way. So it's not like I find it an easy topic. So yeah, please just ask me questions, and I'm sure.
Would you mind if I started?
Sure.
Is that okay? I was looking at the negatives of the electric with a low range and payload.
Yeah.
Range wise, are we talking around town basically? We're not.
Yeah. So to be honest, it does have a lower range than a diesel alternative.
Of course.
But for what it's used for and what the outside services use it for, around town, the tipper is the one that's used a lot less than the 4x4,
okay,
which will retain diesel.
It doesn't go to the far reaches of the parish and things like that. It's more around.
It's
town,
more around town.
And payload wise, is it a significant amount? We're talking.
So the original reason why we went with the Toyota Hilux for the 4x4 is because that has a much higher payload than our current 4x4. Pickup.
Yeah.
Plus it's also a bit more economical, was the original argument for that. This time, because electric is such a new technology compared with tipper vehicles, we're not talking about cars, we're talking about tipper vehicles, the payload is significantly less than what we're currently used to. However, the 4x4 does have the ability to take some of that away, including, and the big inclusion of that is moving the digger, which currently is one of the tasks that we have to do. And projects like Queen Road Cemetery, projects that might involve the digger on the East Court estate, would require the pickup that we've already purchased.
Yeah.
To move.
So the range isn't an issue,
but the
payload could be. But would it stop it doing day-to-day stuff, bar driving, moving the tractor, the digger around?
No,
it wouldn't impact on its day-to-day use.
No,
okay, that's all my questions. Councillor Percy.
Thank you. I apologise if you have said this. Is this a replacement vehicle or an additional vehicle?
Yeah, it's a replacement vehicle. What I would hope with the current stock, and it will have to go through an F&GP, is that they are sold appropriately. So
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, so we can recover.
We're going to have something to offset the cost.
Yeah, we will. This is where I'm going to sort of hand it a little bit to Dan, because the accounting procedures mean that we, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, but we should use this budget in accordance with purchasing, but then any income that we make from that, I believe, so we would treat it not with this ring fence.
Yeah, if we sell an asset, that income from that asset can only be used for future capital expenditure.
So it's not going to be offset. So if for instance, you chose the 38,000 and you've got 15,000, you're not going to offset it to be £23,000 cost of the budget.
Essentially, it can be.
Yeah.
But the money couldn't go back into this pot.
It can't go back into the pot. It has to be treated as a separate income line, which we have to keep very separate.
Yes.
But once you've put that income into, if you like, an income pot, you can then use that, and you can then use that money that you've now generated. You can use that as you wish to fund any capital expenditure.
Okay. So I think that's quite important.
Yeah.
So we'd look at selling the old one, getting whatever we get for it, and putting that money back into the big pot rather than.
And have we any idea what the one we're going to get rid of would actually reach in the second-hand market?
I've had a little look at roughly what it is. I would like to get proper valuations and then come back to this committee to get that properly.
That's fine.
I think we need, sorry, I just think on that, we do need to be realistic. It's not going to be a huge amount of money. This is a vehicle that we are continually repairing, and this is why we've now come to the point of saying it needs replacing. So there will be a residual value of some description. I will be surprised if we're in the tens of thousands. Surprised we're in thousands.
So if you're noting on that, we are paying out for the current vehicle through spare parts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would recommend.
Absolutely,
Chairman, if you don't mind, I would recommend that this is a decision that is made, because you're quite right what you just said. Speaking to Alison about the parts and Sarah about the parts that this, especially the tipper vehicle uses, is significant to the point where it's £1,000 a year.
Well, it's got quite a few more moving parts than
the
highlights.
And I'd say with whatever option you were to go for here, it does have a warranty on those parts. So you would be protected for a little while.
Thank you, Councillor Farron. You
just going to talk a cough at the same time. When we change said vehicle, what is the expected lifespan that we would have it and use it for? Because obviously
it's a very good
you've
question.
got your diesel is your negative, is your 3-year warranty.
Yeah.
You've got 8-year on your parts. You've also put in there, it's a new technology. It's great that it's got.
Yeah.
But how long is it? So really, how long do we have the last digger or tipper?
We've currently had the current vehicle is 9 years old. The tipper. Yeah, I think it's 9 years old when it was first registered, and that's diesel. So I would expect a similar time for the diesel. I would say with the electric, being totally honest, it has a max of about 8 years because of how the battery system works.
But we've spent the last year, so the 9th year of the current tipper has cost us a lot of pennies anyway.
So actually,
so we're looking at an 8-year lifespan, regardless of what.
Yeah, an 8-year lifespan is
battery life on electric vehicles that currently is about 8 to 10 years. They reckon before they are no good.
So my question about the load then again. If the load, if everything can be, the jobs can be carried out with a lower load, then that's fine. If we're going to get to a point over those next 8 years where that is going to become a significant issue, would we look at because this technology, if electric, is going to change massively in 8 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if that's going to the load is going to be difficult to do the job in 4 years' time, do we look at then trading in and doing something in 4 years, and rather than waiting the 8 years of it?
I mean, that is definitely an option. I would say that I don't want to do a disservice to the outdoor services. It is a very well used vehicle. That's the only thing I'd say.
Yeah.
I'd love to say that there would be a great amount of resale, and I'd hope there would be for a vehicle that's only 4 years old and then go into an electric vehicle. I'm just not convinced.
You're talking about it's well used and maybe.
It's hard to say.
Used, well used.
Yeah, it's
well used. Do you know what? I just don't think I've got enough ability to know the difference on this.
Councillor Percy and then Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you. Could you tell me if you are of the opinion that say we put in a new diesel? I don't know whether the people who use these would prefer a diesel to electric, but are we going to get a higher degree of efficiency by acquiring a new vehicle? Does it mean that more jobs would be able to be undertaken? I'm just looking at the efficiency level, because from what you're saying, the existing truck has not been efficient during the last 12 months.
I would recommend either way that there should be a replacement pretty soon.
Yes, I understand that. I'm talking about, will it enable more jobs to be done at a speedier rate? Are we going to make some savings by purchasing a new vehicle?
No.
Vehicle to vehicle, no, because a vehicle's a vehicle. However, the amount of time that the vehicle is off the road because it's being repaired, yes, which I think is what you were saying.
The purchase will provide a greater degree of efficiency because it will be used to a higher capacity. Is that?
But which vehicle, diesel or electric, is going to give us that?
Well, I would propose the third option. I think it's best to go with diesel vehicle. The average saving that we've made compared to electricity is about £12,323. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the lease saving that we've made is about £7,560. And I would point out in regards to green policy that there's nothing wrong with CO2 or pollution per se. It's about having the right level. It's about ensuring that the CO2 that you put out contains the social costs, that is, the rise in the water in Africa or other places that are flooding various floodplains. And if you look at fuel duty, you'll find that it does internalise the carbon cost and the pollution cost, air pollution cost, within it. Now, it doesn't actually contain the congestion cost, fuel duty. It could actually be a bit higher to internalise that negative externality. But this isn't on the road, and we're still going to be paying the same degree of fuel duty, I believe. Or do we use red diesel?
No, we don't.
Okay, so we will still be paying the same fuel duty. So the diesel vehicle, if bought, will not be producing too much carbon because we'll be paying a cost which already has the externality internalised within itself. So on this particular issue, I really don't think there's an environmental concern at all, unless you're solely concerned with minimising CO2 emissions, which strikes me as questionable at best, given the logical conclusion of that is getting rid of civilization.
Okay, thank you. I have another couple of questions, if I may. What other vehicles have we got at the moment that will need replacing in the future that we could say, actually, we go for diesel on this one because we want the payloads, we want this, that, and the other. So we could buy something else that is an offset.
Okay, so we only have two, apart from a tractor, which will not be going electric. We have two, and that's a mini tractor. There are two vehicles currently. One of which we've gone for a lot more efficient diesel, which we've already decided, and then this would be for the current diesel one.
The fleet is small. Okay, charge points. Have we got? I'll be honest, I can't.
That's coming up.
I know that's the next one.
So if this,
have to install charge,
and I think it is worth noting, if this committee decides to go for the electric option, there will be an additional charge to the council.
40 grand plus. 40 grand plus VAT
plus 4 grand.
Yeah.
I think it is.
40, plus £96 a year for.
So for the electric charge point to be installed.
That would just be for the tipper, wouldn't it?
That would just be for the tipper. Yeah.
I note that here that you've got a 9-month build on the electric.
Yeah, they're not being churned out very quickly.
Is the other one going to cope for 9 months? Because we are currently paying out to keep that one on the road for an additional 9 months, plus more money for a vehicle, plus charge point for it.
Yeah, I would say with this one that if we were to go with the diesel option, I don't have an opinion either way, like I said, that I would be able to source the one a lot quicker.
Fine. Tax for the vehicles is, give us a clear. No, I'm not asking for exact pennies.
Similar to what we pay now.
Okay.
There would be very little change.
Is there any
there would be a benefit of going for a greener version.
Road tax, you don't pay that. Sorry, I was thinking road tax.
But that's changed, don't forget.
Remember that is changing. Yeah, that's changing. It's going to be chargeable soon. So, and as a commercial vehicle, it'll be charged at a higher rate as well.
But that's all my questions. I'm still not necessarily 100% underwise, but
I think we.
Councillor Whitaker, do you have any thoughts on this as you're here?
I have another opinion.
Is there a lease option rather than outright purchase?
There is. I actually, Jason actually asked me, Chairman, asked me that question earlier.
I can't remember the reply.
Yeah, there is.
Have we looked
it's very expensive. The APR is, and I will get the figures if you want, but when I looked at it, when we've got this money set in the budget, it made very little financial sense to do that. There would be more sense in doing what Councillor Helen Farron said with regards to buying a vehicle and then reselling it on, because it comes with the same issues with a lease vehicle.
Right, that's right. Thank you. And the other thing is, all of these vehicles are workhorses. They are working day in, day out, hour in, hour out, and they have to be efficient. They have to have the trust of the operatives, because we know how hard they work. We know what they do. So, that being one is a competition.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so unless there's any other questions, I think we've covered most things.
It's just a choice, isn't it, of whether we go for the diesel.
We've got three options. Decision one: we've progressed with the green agenda. Accept the quote for 40k plus VAT, and have the van with us. It's not really ASAP. It's in 9 months' time. Yeah, that's one decision. Decision two is we look to install the green agenda and use our current tipper truck and spend money on parts needed, and then we revisit later, or we investigate a more economical diesel or petrol version. We do have money put aside for a vehicle, and we do have money for the green agenda. Personally, I think we could possibly, this is just my personal opinion, I personally think we could use the green agenda money in a better way and get more benefit from it if we chose a truck that we could get sooner and is more economical than we've got at the moment for diesel and for parts. But that's my personal opinion. Okay.
Okay. Just to be absolutely clear on that Chair, I haven't got an opinion either which way, but I just don't want you to. I just don't want you to take yourself down a rabbit hole on that one. The fleet vehicle replacement fund will cover either.
Yes, yeah, but then we have an additional money that we have for the green agenda.
But you wouldn't have been using that anyway.
Sorry, I thought
only to top it up if you needed.
Okay,
yeah.
Fine. Okay,
I think a few hundred quid.
Okay, fine. Okay. I would like to make a proposal that we go for a more economical petrol or diesel version and get it here as quickly as we can. Readily available.
Decision three.
We get it here quicker. Yes, it doesn't follow the green agenda, but I don't necessarily think this is the right vehicle for that. So I'd like to propose that we go for a more economical petrol or diesel vehicle, and then do something soon with our green agenda to try and balance it. That's what I propose.
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Fantastic. Thank you. Can I have the show of hands? There you have both comments. Decision three.
Thank you.
I don't think that vehicle's ready for green yet. That particular.
Yeah, no.
There's quite a savings. We are talking,
in the future.
And you're right, technology can move it.
Absolutely.
From the highest end of the electric, which was 50,369, to the lower end of the diesel, which was 32,000. That is a significant saving.
Significant saving, and with the money that we save, we can use it for better, for better greener things. Okay, that was a good one. Okay, moving on. Crack on. Item agenda 19, charging points. Proposed to the report to review the proposal of for the purchase and full installation of electric car charging points. The report has been prepared by the Deputy Town Clerk. I have here at the last GP meeting, the committee approved these points. Town council officers should begin obtaining quotes so that the most appropriate option should be selected by this committee. We have now received I haven't. These guys have now received the quotations for the full installation, which includes groundwork, set-up fees, license agreements. The proposal is attached below in Appendix G.
Yes. Nice and big.
Good.
Right.
Yeah, so choose the locations, so on and so forth. I'll hand over to Harry.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Chairman, I think what you just said was quite a good thing to say, because we're talking about in the last agenda item about diesel. So now I think we're talking about the Green Initiatives Fund. So I would recommend that we would go for the electric charging points. This would mean that there's two proposals in Appendix G, and I'm sorry that they're so large, but this company is registered as being one of the best in the country, and therefore they have a very good proposal scheme. So we wouldn't be looking at the one for Mount Noddy Cemetery. That completely goes now.
We've got no tipper.
We've got no tipper vehicle to do that with. So we are only looking at the Upper East car park, East Court car park. One. This proposal is for two. It's for two electric charging points that would cover 4 bays, similar to the Mid Sussex ones, a little bit more advanced, which would allow us to charge different amounts. It allows us to manage them via an app. It's quite a clever system. They've currently taken on a massive contract with National Trust. So the ones that the National Trust have, we would have the exact same things. They're actually shown like that. So there's a picture. Do you want to see a picture of what they look like? And they're quite user-friendly. My recommendation, because I do believe that this is really what the money should be used for in this fund, is because I think it's a good way to generate income, number one. Number two, I think that we are seeing a lot more electric cars in our car park. I think that will continue to happen going forward. And number three, I think this solution actually provides 2 options for staff who may wish to have electric cars. Currently, there's no facilities for that. And that, I think that is something that, as we go forward with the electric agenda that the government has, I think it's important to facilitate that at our place of work, because we're often working here till 7 late. So
8:20.
Yeah.
Okay. So these, sorry, these are fast chargers as well. So these will work.
Yes, they are.
Cars
yes,
that have
they
fast charge options. Yeah. Okay. So the proposal is to have 4 of them, to cover 4 charging bays at Eastport. Okay. I think, as Harry said, that's where we should be spending the money, helping those who.
So just so you know financially, because I just wanted to be clear, so this, you've got 30,000 in the green agenda, and the total project cost for this, it would be it's there 15,842. Oh no, 14,440. So
get a grant.
The grants are in there; they're already applied, so that would be the grant. The reason why it is that money is because of the groundwork required at the front of our building, because the ampage at the toilets where we were looking at it before is too low to support a fast charger, any fast chargers. So that's why it's.
Just to clarify that, Chair, when we bought this last time, we thought the difference between the two was going to be around £1,500 per unit. That's not the case. So actually the total cost is now going to be £14,500, just under. And that's because of the groundworks that have to be done. It could have been as cheap as 1,500 quid, but unfortunately not on our estate. And
I know you've probably looked into this, there's no other location that would mean we wouldn't have to.
It is the best location. The one thing I'd say to this committee, just to add, is that if we ever wanted future ones, it wouldn't cost anywhere near this, because we'd already have run the line.
Okay, so we're future proof in the area then as well. Okay. Like to put a proposal forward, or is there a proposal there that I can just say I propose? Councillor, yes, please, Councillor.
It's only a comment. I don't know a huge amount of the costings. I would just point out that the Checker Mead car park is massively underutilised, the charging points there. Absolutely, that people are just not using it. So I do wonder whether we could just start perhaps with 2 rather than 4, because they are, most of our car parks on Mid Sussex, they are hugely underutilised, the charging points. I just wanted to point that out because that may be a surprise to you.
Yeah, there's 2 in the proposal, not 4.
Yes, so it's 2 in the
Two
proposal.
charging points,
Oh,
but you can park in 4 different bays.
So
So you mean
Yeah.
going down to 1? Just to
sorry, I thought you were
clarify.
saying 4.
And there's 4 things, but so 4 bays, so you can, would that be 4 cars plug in?
Yes, at the
Yeah.
same time.
So you are right, yeah.
So you go
So
down to
same
2
as they
cars.
are at Checkermead, but you've got one which says.
Yeah, it serves 2 bays.
How does that?
Mind you, if you're digging
How
that
would
much
that
groundworks in, I
affect-
think it's in for a
Obviously,
penny
money
a pound.
wise, it
isn't it?
affects it. Do we
It's
get?
worth pointing out.
No,
that
it is,
people
yeah.
have that
Does it halve it,
understanding that
or is there more money because you've got to do the groundwork?
The groundwork's the most
Yeah.
expensive thing, so it wouldn't make a huge difference, but it would make some difference.
But we're
You would
talking
also
probably-
lose a little bit of the grant money though.
Okay, so we'd probably lose £700 of grant money,
Yes.
and then we'd lose 1,500 quid for the 1 unit, but
Yeah.
we're talking about 10 grand each.
And a little bit of groundwork, so
But you still be paying
It's got a
10 grand
massive
ground.
saving.
yeah, you would still be
You're
spending quite a
not
lot of
going to
money.
get much for saving.
So we're probably talking about £2,200
You
in
could put 2
saving.
in and not use 2 if you wanted to. For that.
Yeah. Right.
Food for thought. I think by the sounds of it, if you put in 1 in, you might as well put 2 in,
I
because
think you should do the groundwork.
yeah, but you've got to do
Ah.
you've got to do the groundwork for 1 or 2 anyway.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
10,000, roughly 10,000, for example, £10,000 going to go to
Question.
Of course, council.
That's a question. So, sorry, I did obviously do a little bit of noting on this. So, obviously, once it's all done, and I do think it's a good thing to move forward with,
Mhm.
and this is my ignorance, so
Sure.
you're educating me, please. Obviously, you've got your monthly fee
Mhm.
for your sockets that you have to have. That's obviously an annual cost of just shy of £400. And then we get to set the tariff. So we actually get charged, so that obviously that would then come back. So it shouldn't cost us anything. So so we set the tariff, obviously set it competitively so that people would use ours so that we're not out of money, potentially making money as well, all good. If Mid Sussex have got those that aren't earning money, this is a fresh thought in my head around the table. Would we still be able to sort of, as long as you sort of break even, it's not costing you anything, set a tariff so that you're going to cover your annual £400?
Yeah,
It's your minimum requirement, really, is it not?
yeah, it's a very flexible tariff. The company work with you after sales with all of that to make sure that you are basically covering that cost.
Yeah.
Looking at some kind of like petrol prices, you need to charge this because the time down there is charging you 50p.
Yeah, they're competitive. I think the other thing slightly is that these are slightly different to the Mid Sussex ones, which are standard car chargers. These would be
fast charge.
Yeah.
Or for that solution. So it opens the market to
yes. From the discussion that I had, it sounded like it takes a lot longer for someone to charge their Tesla in Mid Sussex car parks than it does for them to charge their car in a Tesla supercharger spot.
Are we looking at the same kind of output as a Tesla supercharger?
Because of where we're plugging in from.
Right.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Go on.
I might forget them all out. So if you've got lovely superchargers at East Court in those 4 lovely bays, and they're quite nice, accessible bays, I think it's a good choice of location. Would you find people that are coming into East Grinstead, hopefully to work and working in East Grinstead, parking their cars there all day at the chargers? Is that the only thing that would be potentially a...
I think I'll hand that to our town clerk.
Who's clearly had this conversation already.
Well, I feel very grateful to myself I brought it up just to make you smile.
It's a very good point. Obviously, we struggle with people in our car park all day when they're not using the buildings. And obviously, if at such a point in time that the old police station gets converted into accommodation, we could find that we have people parked in our car park charging their cars.
So then we put our tariff up potentially.
So it's something we'll think about, isn't it? And
are we able to?
it's a really good point. How can we police it? I don't know.
Not overnight, obviously, but during the day, you know, your maximum stay.
Okay.
3 hours or whatever it is,
I mean,
for example.
We can look at things like that. Obviously, it will come back to your committee at some point if necessary, with regards to a changed attitude for our car park. I mean, we keep talking about should we or should we not consider the pay and display, and that may be something we have to go down that route at some point.
But maybe it'd be something at that point in the future. But you know, at the moment, it's I just wondered if the conversation had been had, and obviously it has.
What we would envisage a really useful point of this. We've had various different community groups who have gone to electric charging vehicles asking us, are you putting on East Court? Because it would be great if we could come to East Court and charge, rather than people like Sarah up at the Stone Quarry Cafe, because they've got their big food van thing is something she needs to get charged and what have you, and she's going to have to think about putting in a charging point up there if she can't find another way of charging it. And I said, well, we haven't got one yet, but it might be coming. So she's one, she's not the only one, others have referred to it as well. This could actually end up being something that really supports the community in a good way.
I have to say I'm all for it. So I'm all for it. It's just questions that I feel very ignorant on the whole charging situation.
The public who can't park and decide when they're going to park in our car park so they can use the charger in order to resolve their parking problem, that gives us another problem.
But we'll see where that is, because actually depending on what the tariff is. Okay.
That's the person.
Can I just clarify that if we have 4 spaces, they will be all 4 within the public domain as opposed to being behind the barrier?
Yes. Yeah, there's the map. It's sort of that's the map of where they are over that side.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
we're not putting aside the staff barrier, are we?
Yeah. That's the idea.
Oh, was it?
Was it 2 inside the barrier and 2 outside the barrier?
Yeah, 2 inside the barrier.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was on the other side.
I thought it was on the other side.
I thought it was on the other side as well.
I was completely out of that conversation, obviously.
No, it's not. If you look at the map, it's on the other side.
I thought they were going to be in the big car park,
It's
probably not using because of snow.
No, they can't go in there.
Sorry, I completely got that wrong. I thought it was
I'm sorry, even on the pictures, and I looked before we came out, and I looked twice at all of them.
If we've got 2 going in,
no, it is where I think it is.
So
this, you're thinking the barriers here. It's where I think it is. This is the toilets. It's there.
No.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Yeah. So the toilets are there. It's opposite. It's a good place. It's in the public place.
Yeah. Oh, that's why.
Yeah,
right, they've put it there.
It's not staff side of the barrier.
It's not inside the barrier.
No, it's not. You know where the
confirm it.
It's
does that mean
it's not.
Okay.
It's where the toilet block is. And there's the barrier in the middle. There's 2 that side of the barrier and 2 that side of the barrier on the end. On the map.
I just pressed to confirm it here rather than now.
And I thought it was a good location.
If for whatever reason.
Up at East Court car park.
Yeah,
That's what the barrier is, and they ain't nowhere near it. It's over by the toilets. I thought it was in the other big one, but it's
by the toilets.
No, they've put it there. There it is. They put it in that section. It's the site installation overview.
So where are you looking? Where is that?
So that's where our charging point is. They've done that incorrectly. Sorry.
Well, I prefer the location on this one.
I think it should be for public use,
Yes, I do.
not behind the barrier.
You don't think it should be behind the barrier?
No.
Okay. That's fine. So I will need to go back to them about that.
So does that mean
Well, the map. I've gone by the map.
It's the cost of ground question.
Yes.
So can we put this one off, or do we have to vote?
No, you can vote, and you can vote for and say it is to be in the public car park. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
That's absolutely fine.
So I will have to go
back.
I propose that we have 4 bays, 2 charging points, 4 bays, but in the public car park. The suggestion down by the toilets, I think, is a good one.
Yeah.
The only reason I would change that is if there's a problem with.
We have got to take the advice.
Exactly. So if they say no, that's not the place.
We will ensure it's outside the barrier.
Yeah, I would say potentially what we would look at then with this option, because I don't think it can be by the toilets. I think it has to be near the barrier. But I would say with the 2 parking spaces, maybe we would go down to 1 charging point. But I'll come back to this committee.
Well, if I may do a swivel, if we've got the barrier and the metal barrier going to the metal ballast, if we put the charging points
they've done the
there and there,
on a different location.
Staff could use them That's
they've got to come
Yeah,
back
that's
with
how
that.
it works currently.
Yeah, so that means then we could, if you were in the staff car park or
Oh no, we're not. We're losing.
Just to satisfy you, nobody in staff has got an electric car at the moment anyway.
I just think it is important that we make sure
if
it's public
if
use.
it put them along the barrier side, outside in the public area, along the barrier side, somebody in the staff car park or
Yes,
the
that's
car park that is for the people that use this area. It's not a staff car park. It's an area for people that use this facility. They could then use it either side of the barrier.
Yes, that's correct. Sorry to make that confusing.
Okay, so I propose we go for 2 charging points that do 4 cars, ideally in the public area. And
so the wording I've got, if this is what you're after, Chair, to proceed with the installation of the 2 electric charging points at East Court in the public car park area.
Yes. I propose it.
I second it, Chair.
Okay, well, I'd like to oppose it.
It has to have a second first.
Well, you seconded it. This is the debate, and then it's the vote.
That's absolutely
okay.
Right,
go for it.
Okay, there's 3 reasons why I don't think we should go ahead with this. And number 1, it should be noted that all new developments in East Grinstead will have to have charging points. And that means these will only be in short-term use if we take 20, 30 years is our time frame. Secondly, I'd say this is simply not the responsibility of government. When we moved from horse and carriages to cars, you did not have the town council, or indeed any other arm of government, installing petrol stations. So I don't see why now we should be installing electric charging points. This is for the market to deal with and not politicians. And thirdly, I would say once again, cars are not an issue when it comes to climate change because their emissions are already internalised through fuel duty. I think it's about time that somebody sticks up for the fossil fuel motorists. They're always being beaten and beaten and beaten by people that represent the interests of cyclists or electric car users or scooters or something like that. I don't think they should be forced to pay for this electric car installation. And there's no green or no sensible green reason for putting them in place because cars are not an issue. You know, factories might be an issue. They don't have their externalities internalised, but motorists, fossil fuel motorists, already pay their way when it comes to climate change. And I don't see why they should be subsidising people that drive Tesla cars.
But it is an income. It is a revenue stream. And it means people come to the area and use the facilities that we have here and charge a parking.
So would so would a petrol station and indeed setting up a cafe. Yet that's not the responsibility of government. This is for the free market to deal with, not politicians who typically are not as well disposed as businessmen dealing with the affairs of business.
Okay, appreciate your input. Second, we propose second, so we now move to the vote.
We have a motion again.
To proceed with the installation of the 2 electric charging points at East Court in the public car park area.
What's the time frame for that we're envisaging?
The time frame, I would have to get back to them and see, but I believe they are able to do it in the coming year. I being totally honest, I would need to go back to them and ask them because they have got a lot of work at the moment. I believe they're doing quite a lot of National Trust properties at the moment.
Yeah. So is this money coming out of, we have the money allocated?
Yes,
for
we do have the money allocated.
It's not actually going to be a cost, additional cost. It's within the budget.
Is this coming out of green?
It will be coming out of the green incentives budget, which has 30,000 in it at the moment.
I'm not sure we should count on the income from it. I don't think that will be sizable, but it's providing convenience.
Yeah. It's not going to cost us anything. The income should stop any. That won't give us. It'll cover the expenditure of renting, which is £7 a month per unit. £8 a month per unit.
Can people? May I just ask before you put your motion? Can people still park in a parking lot that is a electric spot, or is that reserved then? Are we taking 4 places
Ideally,
out of the
it's reserved for those people, so that people with...
Because I mean, it's already quite crowded as it is, so we're losing 4 parking spaces in the public car park.
Whether we're losing them or we're just directing electric cars to those 4 points.
Effectively, we are losing 4 general spaces. However, as we know, if people can't park, they will park wherever they can park. So and this is always the problem. My point being is that if it's a full car park, then somebody who doesn't wish to charge an electric vehicle will simply park in that spot, and we have no way of policing that or stopping it. So yes, it will take 4 out because they will be marked up specifically. In reality, we will probably have the ongoing arguments with asking people to move cars because somebody wants to charge. Yeah.
Is this not another case of fossil fuel motorists being discriminated against in favour of electric car vehicle users?
I, as a person that has petrol and diesel cars, I see where you're coming from, but also then the business I work for, are now asking us to look at hybrids and electric cars. So are we not just trying to keep ahead of the curve of the trend of the way that motoring is going, whether we agree with it or not?
This is unfair to petrol heads, and it shouldn't go ahead.
Have the quotation people, the people who are providing it, have they provided you with figures on the usage of it, of how much usage through the country at different points? Have they decided? Because I'm only saying because I know that Sussex have had problems. Have you been advised what the percentage?
We haven't been advised, no. To be honest with you,
so you don't know that those.
The only thing that I can say is, along with what Julie said, is I've had a number of hirers contact Alison, and I think they've talked to Julie as well about the potential of having electric car charging points. And I know that I've spoken to a couple of people who go to Blood who have kind of wanted their car charged while they were in having their blood done. So, or their wife was waiting for them outside and they wanted their car charged.
So you're reasonably confident on the
I would
findings say that they will be
based on my conversations that I've had with people. Yes.
I just didn't want us to invest however much it is in a white elephant that is not used, because more and more people have capacity to do their charging in their own homes. So that was my only. I like any money we spend, public money, to be
of course
to use.
I think in Councillor Amos was saying about the new homes, perfectly correct. But the percentage of new homes to existing homes is the weight is way towards older homes that haven't got that. So I think it's a tough one. It is a tough one. We could put them in and they'll never get used, but then we know that there are people out there that want to use them. Whether all 4 are going to get used, who knows? But to say if we put 1 in, we're still spending the vast majority of the money to run the pipe work or the cabling work. So Councillor Owens.
I think it's quite important when discussing issues like this that we can set standards for success or failure. So what would be the occupancy rate rate below which we would judge the enterprise of failure?
If they're not paying for themselves, as in if we've got to pay £7.99 a month, as it were, for each one, and they're not producing enough money at the end of the year to pay the circa £400 each that each one's going to cost us.
First year or 5 years?
Sorry. You can do that within the first year, can't you? You can make that. You can say within the first year.
No, it's not. There's a monthly charge.
Sorry?
It's a monthly charge.
Yeah, so if they're not making £8 a month, then that would be a KPI you're going to get.
There's a £15,000 initial outlay. That surely should account for whether or not.
But then, okay, so you do that over 5 years, they've paid for themselves for 5 years.
Is there an option to perhaps do some more analysing of a gathering of information from someone like with Sussex on the various uptake in their car parks before we actually made a decision? Could that be a different thing?
It is a different thing. I'm more than happy to go and with.
It's only a suggestion. I'm only just trying to.
I can talk to Mid Sussex about their utilisation of their current charging points, although it's slightly different to what we're proposing. I can have that chat with them.
Their product's different, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, so
Which is a significant difference to them.
Yeah, it would be a difference.
Somebody would choose to come and park here rather than Mid Sussex. We'd take a business out of Mid
It's just a
Sussex. Yeah.
suggestion to show that we've
Yeah,
actually
we
done
would, yeah.
our background work
It's not
before.
No, it's not. It's something that I can, of course, do. This company so far, from what I've done, working with them, are sort of industry leaders of what they do, but they also realise that this is a big step for the council, so they would be happy to assist in any way.
Okay, we're starting to run out of time, so I don't want.
Sorry.
20 minutes, Charles. Can I just say, I put a proposal forward to say that we put in 2 chargers, so it gives 4 parking spaces in a public area. If we want to get more information, then I propose that we've got a second for it. If we vote for it, it falls through, we can then put another proposal forward. If you want to propose, then that we go.
Can we put a subjectivity to your proposal, subject to obtaining statistics from the Sussex to confirm usage?
You need to recommend that as an amendment and have that seconded. So what is it? No, I'm just trying to get wording. I'm just trying to get wording. So what wording do you want? Sorry.
Well, I am in support. I just would like to not
More
end
information.
up with none of them being used. And someone said, well, didn't you look at it? The figures that was likely to be. I would just like us to have some sort of figures of usage from our district council on local electric charging points.
How optimised the bays currently are. Okay. Charles?
So we should, I suggest we vote down this motion and then simply bring the motion back in 3 months' time, when you will have gathered the information, hopefully, whoever from the Sussex District Council.
I think that's the easiest way to
that's
do
not
it.
It's not so I propose that we've got a second on it. We should vote whether we should install the 4. So can we vote on that now, please? So voting on putting the 4 in as I proposed it at the moment with no caveat. So I think we should all vote on that. And it's not been voted on. So
against. That's defeated. Thank you.
So new proposal is, can we please have some more information on usage, not only via West Sussex, but if there's anywhere.
I'll talk to them about National Trust as well.
Just to get it, and then I'm sure it will just go through.
Ideally, we want a council one based on Mid Sussex, West Sussex, and a private company as well. And then bring this back in 3 months' time.
Is that right?
I think it's better.
It is more secure.
Just want to be seen to have a basis for your decision.
There's no point spending the money if they're going to sit there empty and just have to talk. So I think that's a great thing. A good proposal.
Yeah.
Don't carry on to you. Do the hands.
Sorry, what's that?
That's
fine. That's fine. That's fine.
So I was saying about council-based ones and also private, company-based ones.
Providers.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's okay, lovely.
Okay, item 20, community governance qualifications. To consider they approve the clerk and then, when complete, the deputy clerk to pursue industry standard proposed professional qualifications. This is part of the development of staff. A well-qualified clerk is an asset to the council. I wholeheartedly agree with that one. The clerk has completed level 4 and found it challenging but also rewarding. The council will also gain from her studies regarding neighbourhood plans, governance, and many other projects. And whatever that's
Initiatives.
That's the word I'm looking for. I just couldn't get it ahead. The clerk would like to complete her studies to take council yet further forward. Following her completion, she would also like to be approved that the deputy clerk should undertake the qualification, thus helping with his development and his future in clerking. 2 qualified people at the council will be a great asset for our strategic and project management moving forward. Obviously, there is a report in there. I'm happy to propose this one. I think more qualified to rather.
Can I ask a question?
You can be.
Mine is obviously because it's significant money. Is it in the budget? Is there CPD in the budget? CPD is obviously incredibly important, and I can't remember, having looked at the budget documents, I just can't remember what's CPD.
We don't have CPD as such in the budget. We have staff training budgets.
Yes.
So we've got 2 staff training budgets in our current budget. There is enough money in this year's budget unspent, which will allow this year's fees to be paid and to go forward. Obviously, we're in a position now to start to talk about next year's budget as well, but I'm relatively comfortable to say that that figure, based on what's for this year, there'll be the money would be there for next year as well.
And then obviously once that's a 2-year thing, and then it's a 4-year programme. So it needs to be ensured that there's basically that £3,500.
It's the money is definitely there this year. That's absolutely definite. And going forward, it would. But as I think of it in the report, I would. Some of the other training events that I have been going on, such as conference, such as the 1-day training events, I simply won't go to them because that money will be going to that money will be going towards the professional qualification instead. So I've looked at it. It was a conversation I had with Dan before I put this forward. The money is there. There is no impact on this year's or next year's budget as a result.
And there, in a way, there could be a saving at some point because of project management fees and strategic fees at outside consultancies that might be asked to help out on certain things. You may well have those covered.
You never know. We don't use them at the moment.
No, but what I mean is,
I suspect we'll be better at it.
Okay, across
you still have to
get better at it.
Unfortunately, you still have to get all these professional people in just to
tick boxes.
Tick boxes.
Sure you've done things right.
Councillor Evans?
Could you name the 3 ways in which this qualification is going to make you better at your job, and how that is going to benefit the people who you're interested?
Yeah, one of the ways, I don't know if I'll give you 3, but I'll certainly give you one, which is a big one. One of the things that the first thing that you start working on is called ABCD, which is, I'm going to get this wrong.
Come on.
No. I know it does. Don't do that to me. It's community development. What's the A and the B stand for? Oh, I've forgotten it now. Isn't it dreadful? Anyway, it's the whole purpose of this entire course. It's not just about learning the legislation. It's not just about learning which pieces of law you can and can't use. That's part of it, and that's a large part of what I've already done in the first year. What you then go on to do, it's about engaging with your community. It's about being better at how you actually communicate as a council, finding out what your community want and how you can help to deliver it for them. That is the skills that I think we can always improve on.
So I'll give you a particular problem. We had the water fountain recently. How would this qualification help you know whether or not it's wanted by the population? Because I know that, well, I'll give you my answer when you answer.
I think that's a very unfortunate one to choose because the water fountain didn't come forward from the officers. The water fountain came forward by a particular community group who wanted to make it happen, and they pitched themselves to the council.
But okay, well, pick any project you like. How would you know whether or not your qualification is going to allow you to see whether or not the community wants it?
You would be, what we would be doing is we would be doing more things around focus groups. We'd be doing more things about community engagement and making sure that we were better at how we currently get the information out of people and what we were doing. And by doing that, we should, I'm going to say should rather than would, have a better understanding of what the projects are they most particularly want. It's not about projects though, particularly, Charles. It's more about the overall I think the word it's where you're heading as a council. What do you want to be? Now, of course, that always has to come from the members, and I can take as many qualifications as there are, you know, hot dinners. But at the end of the day, the councillors will always have to determine by their majority as to how and what they want the council's forward motion to be. But what it will help me to do is to give that information and that support to the council to say, right, we've done this, we've done that, this is what we're getting, and this very much does seem to be something that the community would either want done, would like to see, or whatever, and it helps with the whole strategic growth, that's the word I'm looking for, of the council.
What, can I respond to that? Yeah, it does sound like a certificate in expanding government, if you ask me. I doubt there's very many people that have my kind of thinking in that university course. What I would say is, I don't think you're going to do nearly as good a job with this additional qualification as a price mechanism. I think the best way to determine whether or not people want something is to put a price on it. That way you can actually, by adjusting that, determine whether or not people value it above its costs. That is a far better means of determining whether or not people want something than 19 politicians who have spoken to a few people, well, not Rex, but some other local politicians. Well, no, I think you are a local politician, who have spoken to a few people. I mean, that water fountain, everybody says they want it, but if they actually had to pay the cost for each use, I very much doubt people would want it. I mean, and even if 90% of people in the town want something, if they're not willing to pay the overall cost of that, they don't really want it. They're not willing to pay for its cost. They're not willing to create a net benefit. So I really don't think this is a good use of taxpayers' money. Far better to put prices on things, and that way we'll determine what people really want, as opposed to determining what 19 politicians want that are elected on 33% of the vote, most of which are elected on the basis of what's going on in national politics, nothing to do with what they actually want locally. And if they do want something locally, these people, it's usually, I don't want housing, nothing to do with the stuff that we deal with on these committees. Hence why nobody ever comes to these committees. Now, if the people are really concerned about wanting something, they come along and they say, well, we've got this one, we've got that. But they simply don't care. So I think this is a waste of money. We shouldn't go ahead with it.
Thank you for your comments.
Charles, what about the staff and people's progression and ability to learn and grow within the jobs that they're advocates for?
Well, I don't think it's the role of the council to allow for.
Well, as the employer, it is.
No, it's not responsibility of the employer to allow for career progression for its staff. And if you're looking at a normal business, the purpose of a normal business is to maximise its profits.
It is every employer's job to ensure the satisfaction and ability and progression of their teams.
Well, I am stating that the proper purpose of a business is to maximise its profits. Okay. Now, the council obviously doesn't maximise profits.
Well, as an employer, we have those both sides. It's a business, and you have to ensure that your staff are looked after.
Your biggest asset is your staff, and they're the ones you push forward. They're the ones the more you get out of them, the more money you get.
As a means to make profit. The ultimate end is to make profit, not for staff development. I'm sure,
you have development to make profit.
Staff development to make money. So
but the end is not the ultimate end is not staff development. The ultimate end is maximising profit.
No, but then if you don't give anybody staff development, they then leave. It costs you more money.
Well, perhaps, but that's a contingent relationship. It's not a necessary relationship.
Okay, so
and I would say that the council, its agenda is set by the councillors, and that agenda could well not involve staff development. For example, if people like me were elected to this council, then you get rid of most of the people here, and you definitely wouldn't train them any more than absolutely necessary.
Can I just make one very quick comment on that?
Yes, and then council.
At the last council meeting, this council adopted the respect and civility agenda, which includes the training of staff and councillors. It's therefore something that there's a policy we've signed up to.
And something that we should do. And Councillor Percy.
Thank you. On this, I don't agree with Councillor Amos. I believe staff development is really important, and I think for our town clerk, she gives advice, she gives good knowledge, she'd have greater guidance, knowledge, advice not only to the staff but to the councillors and to the community at large that come in and ask for guidance. And I think if I look at a school, a good school has a good head. A good business has a good leader. CEO. I think it's really important.
I couldn't agree more, and I would like to propose that that we approve the clerk and the deputy clerk to pursue the industry standard professional qualification.
Can I just say with the deputy clerk, sorry, I do agree that you do need to do the qualification, but to go one after the other, I think we need to look at the timings of it and make sure that we bring it back in a year's time to make sure that we're budget funding for progression and succession planning. Because if we don't bring that in, it's got to go into the budget to ensure that there is budget moving forward, to ensure, because it's a 4-year timescale. This is
what I said.
I'll just have it to notes, that's fine.
Okay, so I would propose that we approve that the clerk and the deputy clerk pursue the industry standard proposal qualifications, and then it's reviewed.
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you. Can we have a vote on that, please?
That's carried.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Sweatman for all his hard work that he's done in this group and in other groups and committees, and all the hard work he puts in. And I would also like to remind you that the next committee meeting is held on Thursday, the 12th of January, for the budget, and then a full meeting on Thursday, the 16th of March 2023. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your comments and your input. And I'd like to close this meeting at 8:55.
Thank you, Chair.